I'm going to take you through the new weADAPT. Not all of you, it sounds like there's different levels of understanding of weADAPT, so I'll explain what weADAPT is. I'll explain how it can help your work and how you can use the platform. So this is what we will do today. I'm going to give some background, more about weADAPT. Then I'll take you through the 3 things you can do on weADAPT: learn, share, and connect. And then we'll say something brief about weADAPT services, which relate to the microsite service that Katie mentioned. And then we can just have a conversation at the end. So if you're here today on this call, it sounds like you're all more or less working with adaptation. And we know that the importance of adaptation is only going to increase in the future. However, there are some barriers to adaptation, as we know. Some of them are financial, economic, cultural, social, etc. But what weADAPT tries to address is a barrier to knowledge exchange on climate adaptation. And we know that knowledge is absolutely critical to ensuring that adaptation can happen. However, there are some barriers. On the one hand, there's so much information nowadays, and it's kind of hard to navigate through the noise, and it can lead to confusion, to replication of knowledge and redundancy. So that's one of the things that weADAPT tries to address. There are also inequalities in access to knowledge in terms of who accesses knowledge, how, when, where, when we think of all the actors that are involved with climate adaptation, and that really we need everyone to get involved in climate adaptation. Oftentimes, knowledge is very much top down, and what we want is an equitable access to knowledge. So what is weADAPT's vision? To accelerate learning, collaboration, and climate action in a just and equitable way. We want good, trusted information on climate adaptation to get to where it's needed and to be accessible to all. So this is what the platform looked like. I'm putting this slide here because there's been some major changes on the platform recently. So if you've used weADAPT in the past, but not recently, you may wonder, well, why does this look so different? In January 2024, the platform went through a major upgrade with not only a new look, but lots of new functionalities to respond to user needs and to be more user-friendly, to encourage more of a kind of dynamic, interactive community, and to make it easier to share knowledge and to access knowledge. So this is what it looks like. Now, I'll just tell you a little bit more about weADAPT. Oops. So it was launched by SEI in 2007, so quite a long time ago now. And now weADAPT is one of the world's leading and longest running platforms for knowledge exchange on climate adaptation. Through the platforms, as I mentioned, users can learn about practical, relevant, and trusted information on climate adaptation, share their work, and connect with other users. So who is part of the weADAPT platform and community? The platform brings together a dynamic global community of over 8,000 users from 5,000 organizations involved in adaptation research, policy, and practice. And the kinds of organizations that are on the platform include universities and research institutes, NGOs, INGOs, government ministries, think tanks, planners, students, civil society. And we know that because partly from when users register themselves on the platform, when they update their profile, but we also in 2021 did a survey with our users, which Sukaina will tell us more about in a minute. So I thought it'd be useful to run you through some of the key weADAPT principles because it really gives an idea about what the platform aims to do and how it does it. So the first one, and really the most important one, is that weADAPT is open to all. It's user-led and it's free to use. And as I said, we want good climate information to be as accessible as possible. It's user-led, and we try to respond to suggestions or feedback we have on the platform. And that's partly what led to the upgrade in January 2024. So we're inclusive by supporting all voices and encouraging contributions from local to global actors, local to global levels. And our ethos is very much to try to encourage and support marginalized groups and voices. And going forward, we're going to put even more effort, both in terms of whose contribution we present on the platform, but also in terms of who edits the work. We have a network of editors who reviews the work that goes on the platform, and we really want to diversify our editors. So that's part of our strategy going forward. The third point is that weADAPT aims to increase accessibility and connectivity with, we have settings on site for low internet access. We try to use non-technical language as possible, and we have many language options, which I'll explain in a minute. The platform supports peer-to-peer horizontal learning. So as I mentioned, we try to move away from the top-down kind of learning. And we also support collaborations and knowledge exchange to accelerate climate action. We want to make it easier for people to find trusted, credible, and relevant information on climate adaptation. And this is also really essential because, as I said, there's so much information out there on climate adaptation, and we want weADAPT to be the go-to place, the place that people go to find information they can trust. And the final point is that the platform aims to reduce silos, redundancies, replication, and fragmentation of climate knowledge. So weADAPT has been growing over time, and today we have, as I mentioned, 8,000 users from 5,000 organizations, and on the website we have over 230,000 annual visits. So that's the latest analytics from the past year, and from 220 countries and territories. So really, it spans over the whole world. The content can be accessed in different language, and we can see from our analytics that the content on the platform is accessed in over 85 languages. So it's a leading platform for learning and sharing climate adaptation content with over 2,500 articles and 1,000 case studies. We have also an active presence online with active social media accounts, as you can see here. So what I want to do now is take you through the learn, share, and connect what you can do on weADAPT is learn, share, connect, and I want to take you through each of them. So learn is about accessing, as I said, credible, trusted information on climate adaptation. And there's a few different functionalities. Some of those are new with the upgrade. So I'll take you through all of them. So on weADAPT, you can find up-to-date practical and quality information on climate adaptation and associated fields. And here I wanted to add associated fields because some of the information there is maybe not directly relevant to adaptation, but it is an associated field. So it could be, migration, disaster risk reduction, for which we have separate themes. The information is easily accessible. It's organized in themes to make it easy to navigate for the users. And it's also available in non-technical language. We have about 20 themes, and that makes it easy. So if you're, for example, interested in a theme on cities, then you can access that information. Or Katie is part of the Adaptation Without Borders theme, and that's where all of the information related to that theme can be found. And funny enough, Katie, I put an example of an article, and it's one that you've authored, so you'll see your name in one of the next slides. So it's information you can trust. As I mentioned, all the content goes through a review process, which I'll explain in a second, to ensure quality and clarity. We have green settings, and that's a new feature with the upgrade. It's settings that every user can decide to turn on or off. It's settings for dark mode or ensuring low quality images, low resolution images. And this helps, on the one hand, reduce the energy consumption of the platform, but it also makes it easier to access the platform in areas or for users who have low or unreliable internet access. You can also read it in your language. We have content accessible in over 100 languages. I think it's about 130 in total. And as I mentioned, we know that that the content is accessed in at least 85 languages. And the final point is you can bookmark content. So that's also a new feature with the upgrade. Any article or content that you go through, you can bookmark it. And if you don't have time to read it, then you can go back to your profile and access it. And I should say that all of the content on the website is accessible. You don't need to have an account. But if you want to have more functionalities like bookmarking your content, turning on green settings, etc., then you can create an account for free. So this is a list of our weADAPT themes. I'll just let you have a quick look. And this is an example of the climate, food security, and agriculture theme. So if you're interested in food security, then you can just subscribe to the theme and you'll be notified about content that is relevant to that theme. There's also a forum area dedicated to each theme, and I'll explain forums in a second. You can filter the theme by content type, and there's also some themes have different categories. So there's different types of content you can find on the site. You have articles, case studies, blogs, events, and courses. And articles are actually, oftentimes people think that we mean scientific articles or journal articles, which it can be, but it's not necessarily. Articles is just a type of content on weADAPT that is not geolocalized. So it could be, journal articles, reports, policy briefs, or really it's quite wide what we accept. But in opposition to case studies are geolocalized. We can add them on our map of case studies, which I'll show you in a second. So sometimes there's a little bit of confusion there, but we accept quite a wide range of content type. We also repost blogs. We advertise events that organizations are that are upcoming. We also repost summaries and recordings of past events, and courses are, a very popular aspect of a very popular content type on the website, one of the most digested type of content. And I just wanted to add those examples below to say that sometimes we curate content ourselves. So this one, what's next for adaptation, 12 leading voices on adaptation weigh in on priorities post COP28. This was one of our most accessed article of 2024. And that's that's an article that we curated with 12 people contributing, 12 leading voices on the adaptation field. We have kind of high-level global reports like this UNEP adaptation gap reports, but we also have much more low-scale pieces of content led by community groups or NGOs, etc. And this last one is an example of one of the courses that we host on the platform. This is our map of case studies. So as you can see, we have quite a lot of case studies around the world, and every week we're adding to that map. And with the upgrade, it's now much easier to look through the map of case studies, and you can search by keywords, and you can also search by theme. So if you were interested in all the case studies relevant to adaptation without borders, you could navigate through the filter and just tick adaptation without borders, and you'll find the relevant themes. So here's Katie. This is an article of roadmap for African resilience, and I just wanted to put it there so you could see the different elements from the article. As you can see, you can bookmark the article, and you can then access it on your in your profile. In your profile, you can see all of the articles you've bookmarked. You can see here we feature the authors of a piece of content, those that are registered on the platform, and you can click on their profile. So this is a really good way of getting visibility for the work that you do, and people do use it, and really that's one of the main ways that they connect with one another. We also have keywords, and that's there to organize the content and to make it easier for people to find relevant content. So, for example, if you clicked on the tag transboundary adaptation, for example, you would see all of the articles that are relevant with that theme or with that keyword. You can see the number of downloads for a particular resource. That's quite useful. Sometimes people like to have the analytics, see the number of downloads. This is the article theme. And we also give visibility to the organizations that contributed to a piece of content. And another thing to say is that it's easy to add content on the platform, and we add users can add it's not just text. We can add images and videos and embed podcasts as well. So it's quite wide, the number of elements that you can add to an article. So the second thing you can do on weADAPT is sharing your work. Anyone is welcome to submit content on weADAPT. The content just needs to be open access and relevant to climate adaptation. It's very easy now, and it's much, much easier. That's one of the key improvements of the upgrade, is that we now use WordPress instead of Drupal, and it's much, much easier to add content on the platform. I'll show you just in a second, but it's very much like a text editor. There is a review process, as I mentioned, and I'll explain in a second. And it involves the theme editors, the editors that are relevant to the theme that you're submitting to. And finally, adding content on the platform is a great way of getting additional visibility for your work, because we always reshare the content via Twitter and X and LinkedIn, Facebook, and our newsletter. So the review process involves two types of reviews. I do a first round of review, and then the editor for the theme that the user submitting the piece of content to will also review the article. And that takes about, on average, a couple of weeks. We try not to make it longer than that, because I know people are keen to have their content on the platform, and sometimes it's important to have it quickly because it's relevant to a particular event that is going on. But that's roughly the time scale. And we're mindful also that our editors have quite busy schedules, so a couple of weeks is the average time. This is just a screenshot of what it looks like when you add an article in the backend. So if you go under the share tab, you can add the piece of content that is relevant. And this is what the backend looks like. As you can see, it's basically like a text editor. There are some template titles or subheadings, but you can you don't have to use those exact ones. We like to have a more or less a standardized how can I say, a standardized structure for our articles, because it does help the user when they see an introduction, the methodology, and it could be, key findings or key results or adaptation strategies, etc. But those are just templates, and they can easily be changed. The article that you submit on this page is an abridged version of the original article. So, for example, you want to share a report that you've led on adaptation and migration. It's a 50-page report. This page here is just an abridged version. So it's not the whole report. It's just almost like a teaser with some of the key points. If you click on the plus in the top left of the screenshot, then you can add images and videos and embed podcasts, add buttons, etc. And on the right-hand column, here you can add all of the details. You can add all the keywords, an article cover image, an excerpt of the article, etc., etc. I don't want to get into too much detail now. I think if you're interested, you can explore, and you can get in touch if you have any questions. And the last point is connect. So this is actually, we've noticed recently by doing surveys and interviews that our users are very interested in connecting with one another, and some of the new functionalities on through the upgrade also makes it easier for people to connect with one another. One of the main ways that people discover new users and new authors is through through articles themselves, where you can see the authors. So it's really great if you can be added, if you register on the platform, and if you add a photo and a biography of yourself, because people do check out other users' profiles. You can also follow other users. That's a new functionality. So if you're really interested in, for example, what the work Sukaina is doing, then you can follow her. And every time there's a piece of content that she has authored or co-authored, then you'll be able to know. Discussion forums. We are still doing some work on the discussion forums, but this is basically a space where users can connect with one another. They can just introduce themselves, they can ask a question, they can share announcements, and more. And each theme has a dedicated space for forums. And some themes use their discussion forums more or less than others. And finally, this is still under development, but we're hoping this will be coming soon. It's a functionality that allows users to directly send each other messages. This is really useful because we often ask, could you connect us with this user, or do you have the contact detail for this user? And sometimes because of GDPR, it's more or less complicated, but through this functionality, this means that users can connect directly with one another, a little bit like LinkedIn or other social media websites. So we have a page where we showcase all of our users, and wherever you see user on the platform, you can click on their profile, and you can, visit their page. As I said, it's much recommended to add to your profile and to add your photo, because this will increase the visibility of your profile on the platform. You can edit your profile by clicking on your name in the top of the site, and then you can click on edit, and then you can edit your profile. And I think I'll leave it there. I'll pass on the floor to Sukaina, and she's going to tell us more about how people are using weADAPT.
Thanks so much, Alice. So I guess one of the things that you might be wondering is, what is the impact of the platform, and what is the point of sharing your work on the platform? And I think one of the major barriers to sharing information on a platform like weADAPT is time constraints. So over the years, we've learned a lot of lessons around how to support users to share their content in a quick and easy way, but also to ensure that the visibility that a piece of content receives is actually quite high, so that various types of impacts can be achieved. And we wanted to conduct a bit of a study last year to evaluate the impact of the platform and really see if we are able to achieve some of these goals of helping people learn better, share and connect with each other on adaptation issues. And so we've conducted a survey and done many interviews over the past year to try and better understand this and to understand the ways in which the platform may be having impact. I'll just quickly touch on a couple of these areas now, but I encourage you to have a look at this link if you're interested in knowing more about the detail of these stories. And we're also publishing a paper shortly about the impact of the platform, which hopefully I'll be able to share soon. So some of the areas where impact is being achieved, which were, to be honest, quite surprising to some of us in terms of how we had envisaged the outcomes and the impact pathways to develop, were around raising awareness about adaptation within one's own community. So in developing a theory of change, which we have also been doing in the last couple of years, and having that respond to user needs, we really wanted to use this process to try and understand how we could improve our knowledge management processes. So as I say, we've learned a lot over the years about the barriers to sharing, but there are a lot of ways in which the knowledge management process can be improved through understanding what the impacts are. And this area in raising awareness, simply raising awareness about climate change impacts and adaptation, was something we hadn't really envisaged as a key impact, but it really did come through in that people were very keen to learn about what was going on in their own area, in their own locality, and in their own contexts. In relation to that, and also one of the impacts that we were hoping to achieve, and as Alice said, one of our key missions and visions is to try and increase impact in marginalized areas or areas that are hard to reach. Capacity development is a very big area of work for us and a very big area of a very big type of content that we share. So we share a lot of training modules and a lot of guidance material and tools and frameworks for how to support adaptation processes. And this was one of the things that came back very strongly through our interviews, that people, different types of users, are using the resources to support capacity development in their own communities, whether this is with youth or women groups or communities who are displaced by disasters, for example, which came through quite strongly, or if it's with farmer organizations or through train the trainer processes, where organizations are being trained on lead farmer practices and then scaling that out to other farmers in their region. So this was also a really interesting impact that we learned about and that we weren't totally expecting. Another area where we can really say that platforms like weADAPT are able to bridge the sort of knowledge to action gap is around implementation and learning from other cases. So what came out very strongly through our interviews was that people are very much looking for examples that work well in other cases, or also challenges that have been faced that maybe were not met with success, or there were things that didn't go as planned, and these challenges were learned from in different ways. And so learning from other cases is really, really important through the platform. And this is where things like the standardized knowledge sharing that Alice touched on earlier is really important. So the reason we have these standardized templates for how you share knowledge and also how you describe it through our tags, for example, the reason why that's very important is because this is what makes knowledge more transferable, and the transferability of this knowledge, as well as the quality and the credibility of the knowledge that we share, supports this place-based planning and practice. So this was very, very interesting to see. And then lastly, fostering connections and partnerships is also another key role that platforms can play. And we learned this very strongly through our interviews, where many organizations were saying that they were able to connect with other organizations through the platform, because even in the previous version of the platform, we have had the ability for people to connect with each other and to support this peer-to-peer learning. Next slide, please. Great. So another thing that we wanted to touch on just briefly is that all the elements that we've discussed today are things on weADAPT that are free to use. They're open access. You can access any resource without registering. The only time you would need to register on the platform is if you wanted to share your own content, or if you wanted to post a forum topic, or get in touch with a user and sort of develop that peer-to-peer learning community sharing. But we also have other services on weADAPT that are not free, because they come with a sort of additional development time. And these are, there are two types of elements. One is a network, which is a specific space on the platform where you can grow a community of practice around a particular topic. And then we also have microsites, which are branded and standalone sort of website spaces that, again, can be on a topic related to adaptation or slightly separate from adaptation. But these are websites that are able to build on the existing infrastructure of weADAPT. So a couple of examples of these are the CBA network that is led by IAED, and the Adaptation Without Borders microsite, which is co-founded by SEI, ODI, and IDRI. And the network on the left is something that, as I say, it's a way to build a community of practice, and it also has an editor like our themes, but it's a fully managed space that can be used to really communicate around a particular topic. And this particular theme is very much geared towards the community-based adaptation conferences led by IIED and other partners that takes place every year. And this is a really active and strong network on the platform. The microsite on the right is an example when an organization, a project, or an initiative needs to have its own sort of branding. So although weADAPT is very much about trying to reduce silos and fragmentation, replication, and redundancy in the content that is shared online, we recognize that there are still examples and circumstances where projects do need their own branded space. And so we developed this service called the microsite service, which enables organizations to still use the content, the functionality, and the community, importantly, on weADAPT to create a new website space that is basically very quick to get up and running, because it can pull relevant content from weADAPT. It can use the functionality of weADAPT, but it has its own look and feel, as you can see. And these are also managed by editors. So it's sort of a fully owned, fully managed space, but it has the support of the knowledge management team also from weADAPT. So some of the priorities going forward on the platform are very much related to the feedback we've had from our interviews, but also obviously the changing adaptation agenda and emerging priorities. So one of these areas is, as Alice mentioned, we have a messaging service that is soon to come online, which will hopefully help to support peer-to-peer learning and connections between organizations and individuals working on adaptation. And this was a part of the previous website, and we do know from interviews that peer-to-peer learning was definitely a big part of the platform. It was happening even though we didn't necessarily know that some of these interactions were taking place. We also are prioritizing in the next couple of months in our strategy that the knowledge base continues to incorporate content from different scales, so very much spanning the local to the global. It's quite a challenging task for a platform to do this, and often platforms focus on a very specific scale or very specific sector or topics of specialization. But at the moment, we're still really keen to support content from these different scales, and to make sure that and the reason that we're able to do this, we think, through the interviews that we've had, is because our distributed model of themes and networks with specialist editors allows the content to remain high quality and credible, and it means that we are still able to serve very different communities. We also have a very big priority around decolonizing knowledge and making sure that our editors and our content represent very many different knowledge types and communities of knowledge and disciplines. And this is something that we're very keen to keep prioritizing going forward. We also are very responsive to new themes and networks that and concepts and areas of emerging interest in the adaptation landscape. So we have a new theme that will be launched soon around youth and youth engagement. We've just launched a new theme on water security that Alice led. And so this is really exciting to have these new themes emerging. And then lastly, the other very exciting development is we also have new microsites coming on stream around citizen engagement and giving visibility to different types of research, but also different content types being visible on our case study map. So the case study map is something that interviewees were really positive about, because again, this helps the learning from other regions. And at the moment, we only have case studies on the map, but we're about to launch filters on the map that will allow you to see which organizations are actually working on adaptation around the world, and also link to members as well as adaptation solutions and our other content. So articles currently are not visible on the map, but they will also be accessible if they have a geolocation that's relevant. So with that, I think I'll hand back to Alice.
So this is our last slide, and it's very much to wrap up what we've been discussing now. So why would you use weADAPT? As I mentioned, it's free and user-led. You can use it to increase the visibility and searchability of your work, to increase the visibility of your own profile as well as that of your organization. It's a brilliant space to connect with peers and potentially develop new collaboration. If you have any events coming up, it's also a good place to advertise them. We provide analytics around the content that you upload. You can get download numbers for your piece or page views. And this is also a great way of giving legacy to a project. Oftentimes, well, many projects are funded for a few years and then they finish, and people use weADAPT to give legacy to the project, because weADAPT is, it's been around for 15 years and it will be around for a long period, we hope. As Sukaina mentioned, you can also use it to develop a network or a microsite or a community of platform. And the most important thing to remember is that it's a flexible platform and we're always responsive to what people need. If there's any feedback or ideas. So please do get in touch if you have any questions or suggestions or anything.